TV.
Welcome back and many thanks for staying with us on the #1 breakfast show in the country, Morning at NTV. We are getting into the biggest conversation of the day, the Inter-Party Organization for Dialogue. The summit is tomorrow and it will be the third. The first one was in late 2018, that was around December, and the second one was in 2019 around May. Both summits were actually snubbed by the FDC, the Forum for Democratic Change. Why? They did contend that well, there was harassment of their political leaders, arrests and detentions incommunicado, and there was also the issue of disrupting their political activities. That's according to the party president, Patrick Amoria Tobo. Well, when we did talk to, during that year, 2019, when we did talk to Ibrahim Semujunganda, the spokesperson for the FDC, he told us, well, the main reason is because the IPOD summit was a social event. Do they still have the same sentiments towards the IPOD summit? And is that the reason why they've decided to snub the third IPOD summit? Yes, I do have the two gentlemen, the Director of Communications at the NRM, Emmanuel Dombo, and also Francis Mwijukye, the MP for Mwijukye. Gentlemen, a very good morning. Let me start with you, Mwijukye. The opposition party FDC has declined to attend this summit. This is the third time. Why does this keep coming up?
Well, it's not a matter of just declining. It's not a matter of just attending a meeting. It's not a matter of inviting people for the meeting. What is important is the purpose of the meeting, the agenda. So, at the end of the day, what is this meant for? Is it a photo opportunity, photo moment? Is it for public relations? Is it happening because somebody is looking for endorsement? So you don't just go as a president of a party to a meeting for which the agenda is not clear, for which somebody is summoning you amidst circumstances for which you can't talk.
What was the agenda of the Inter-Party Organization for Dialogue in 2010, which was when it was created?
First of all, you recall that this is something that started with our leaders right off from when they had a meeting in Sweden.
The KIC.
Yes, and it was to do with how then do we bring a peaceful transition in our country. Right away looking at what had happened in Ghana. Rawlings had a big parliament. He had a strong army. But at some stage, people sat and said, no. How do we transit from these generals, civilian leaders? And it has worked for Ghana. So it was a lesson picked from Ghana. We said, we need this in Uganda.
But Zama Mbabazi said Uganda is not Ghana
at the
time. And it didn't work out.
We know Uganda is not, is not Ghana. Who doesn't know it? It's like you say, Mwijukye is not Dombo. Of course, I am not Dombo. Really in size, in age.
So the creation of IPOD was largely to actually look at the transition from President Yoweri Museveni to another leadership.
Not just a transition, a peaceful transition. Whereby, please, the army go back to the barracks. Let's have civilians lead this country. That was the purpose. Now, that has since changed. And you invite people for tea, you invite people for discuss elections, you invite people to discuss the after elections, you invite people to come and discuss, you know, things that are different from the real purpose. So, for me, I think that what is happening in the meeting for tomorrow is, for one, you realize that the West, which there used to be Museveni's friends, this government's friends, they have since shifted. You have seen the European Union is not endorsing like it would be.
They didn't even observe the election.
The new government. Most of them are complaining why they were not accredited. There is a shift from the West to the East. So the Americans are not endorsing. So what does this tell us? that somebody now says, if I can't get endorsement there, maybe I can get endorsement from court.
But what is the purpose of this endorsement from IPOD if you've already won the election? A court case is no more.
Yeah, but you see, you win an election and everybody says, no, you have not won. We don't recognize you. You are beating people. There were human rights abuses, you know. So just call politicians, bring them together, let them endorse you, and then you say, oh, at home, you may not like me, you the Westerners, you may not like me, but at home, I have all parties behind me.
Yes.
They have endorsed me. So for me, it is just political endorsement.
All right, that is Francis Mwijukye. He is the MP for Mwijukye. We also do have Emmanuel Dombo. He is the Director of Communications that is at the NRM Secretariat. Mr. Dombo, what do you make of the submission Mr. Francis Mwijukye just gave us right now? And if you were to change his mind or his view, what does the opposition stand to gain by attending the IPOD summit tomorrow?
You know, my brother, Honorable Mwijukye, we were just having a chat outside. And
he told me, yes.
I was reminding him when we first visited Mwijukye with the Honorable late Bantariza. And he tells me he was in a senior too at that time. What a pleasure that we're now on the same platform discussing national issues.
That's multi-party politics for you.
And this is really the democracy NRM keeps talking about. And you can see, this is not a military government. And this man is thinking about a transition from generals, where the FDC is fronting basically a general. And it is fronting Mugisha Moto, a general. NRM is fronting President Museveni, who is a general. So we're transiting from a general. Once these people have retired from the army, they become civilians. And the constitution allows them, just because President Museveni is the commander-in-chief, and he puts on military combat, it doesn't in any way make this a military government, and we don't require any transition at all. Because the transition is properly defined within the national constitution of Uganda.
Through elections.
What should happen? We should have elections. So I don't know whether Honorable Mwijukye in parliament is serving under a military government, and whether he's a general himself in the Mwijukye area which he represents. This is a democracy, and the democracy is growing. Mr. Busiku, FDC is playing the games it enjoys most.
What kind of games?
When it's no longer in the limelight because NUP is taking over leadership of the opposition, now they must do certain things, some more posturing in order to keep attracting the press. Because you know that in parliament, our leader of the opposition comes from the FDC. But if in the coming parliament, because we are transitioning from the 10th parliament to the 11th parliament, now we shall be having national unity platform, providing the leader of the opposition. So in this transition, what would make FDC relevant, if not masquerading like they are doing? This is the only thing they have to do. Because if it is inter-party political dialogue,
yes,
what is dialogue? Dialoguing is people sitting down and talking. And how is the agenda generated? The council sat about a week ago, a few days ago the council sat, and the FDC was represented. And the council generates the agenda for the summit. And they participated. So why do you participate in the council, which sets business for the summit, and then when the press conference is called for it to be announced, you exclude yourself? What is the purpose? Why wasn't this said at the time when the 3 delegates of FDC attended the council, they participated in the deliberations, the agenda was agreed, now time comes, because they must attract the press, and they are about to get off the scene, now they must be talking. I know we should not get stuck in the feelings and minds of a few individuals who feel if they have not been part of the discussion, then Uganda will cease to exist. This is an opportunity which FDC must take on. One, the other time when was the DP who was which delayed to hand over?
DP.
FDC quarreled.
Why are you delaying to?
Why are you delaying to give us the
Yes.
seat? Do you know why? Perhaps because of the perks that go with it. And I want to tell you,
the money from the Netherlands Institute for
I don't
Multiparty
want exactly to
Democracy.
say that, but
Yes.
I've just said that you use the general word because of the PACs.
Yes.
And the FDC will boycott anything as long as there are no resources associated with it. If there is no international trip, they will boycott. If there is no food, they will boycott. I don't know what will happen in I don't know the SOPs in Kololo. I don't know whether the food will be there. If there is no allowance, they will want to boycott. But once those three are there, I want to tell you FDC will always be there. That's why they cannot boycott Parliament, because the allowances and people are paid. They cannot boycott other meetings because there are opportunities to share in. When the summit sits and enhances the budget of IPOD, I mean of the parties, and the biggest beneficiary of the previous enhancement was NRM and the FDC. The other parties which negotiated and consistently attended the summit did not benefit as much. But so why would the FDC be only boycotting, but they hurry to partake of what others have negotiated for? This is being selfish.
Francis Mwijukye is here to answer that
And
question.
this is being very selfish, which I think our friends in the FDC should stop doing, and they should know that this is a collective struggle. If NRM is making a few mistakes, or we have made a few mistakes, it's only through that dialogue that you can raise them. If you have also made mistakes, and NRM must also raise them on how they are being attacked, we must also raise them in the interpolitical dialogue. Because this is the purpose of the dialogue. And unless we do this, then we cannot sit on the same round table and begin talking about so many issues that should be done. Yet even planning for that cannot be done by the people in the leadership.
Mr. Mwijukye, it's not only Emmanuel Dombo who is fronting this accusation of you running out of the summits, but then you keep on attending the council meetings. DP Secretary General, that is Gerard Siranda, also accused you of the same in 2019 when you decided not to attend. He said, why do you attend council meetings, but when it comes to the summit, you decide to run away? Are you simply playing opportunistic politics, as it is, to look good in the eyes of the public, the citizens who are watching, always?
Well, thank you. Maybe it's begin with that. DP attended then. So what they have achieved from attending. They discussed violence, a non-violent election. Was this violent or it wasn't? Was there fairness? So, you know, I really don't want to take that path.
But the viewer wants to know why you attend council meetings and not the summit itself.
Yeah, but you see, you started by talking about Silanda, and I don't want to take that line, because if you say now, DP attended, and this is what it has achieved from attending. Those who attended have achieved the following. They would say, oh, so we missed being there. So what did we miss in 2019? I mean, yes, in 2019, from attending? Nothing. Presidential candidates were arrested in this very election after that summit. And what was agreed? Or did we have presidential candidates being arrested in this election, apart from one? Or, you know, what? So.
And the issue of money, you also talked about money, that you are being pulled by the issue of money from the
I
Netherlands
was coming to that. I just wanted to begin there.
All right.
So, the fact that we have my presidential candidate was arrested many times. While the NRM presidential candidate was sleeping in comfort, our presidential candidates were in cells. And he was happy about it. And Dombo was happy about it. You can even see his face. He's very happy.
Go ahead, Francis.
He's very happy. We were discussing that even before we came in here. So, that is one. Two, we are talking about kidnaps. Dombo is not aware that there are kidnaps in this country. He's not aware.
He's talking about my size.
Go ahead,
I'm
Francis.
talking about his happiness. You can see a happy man.
Go ahead, Francis.
Amid these kidnaps, everybody is bringing a list of their family members who you cannot trace. And somebody says, come and we discuss POMA, Public Order Management Act. Come, we discuss that. No, we want to discuss the missing Ugandans. That's what we want to discuss.
But would you be able to discuss the missing Ugandans if you're not actually there?
Let's have that on the agenda. Don't call me for POMA. That come and we discussed POMA a long time ago. It was even struck out by court. You're calling us to discuss that rather than discuss the current developments. Now, my friend is talking about FDC going for meetings because of food. I am sure he doesn't believe in what he's talking about. I am sure he doesn't. I would have used another word, but because of his age, I will not. But I am sure Dombo does not believe that FDC goes, because if that was the case, just a second, if that was the case, I would be in NRM. That's why the food is. He knows what we go through. He knows. He knows how many people have lost their brains because of food. I don't want to say he's one of them, no. But he knows people who used to be very intelligent, but because of food, because of resources, because of money, you find them speaking for what doesn't exist. So I really know that Honorable Dombo knows that for you to be in FDC, for you to be in any position party in this country, is for you to be able to sacrifice. If you're greedy for food, for money, Ugandans watching us out there know where you will be.
Here is the argument, Francis Mwijukye.
Now,
here's the first argument. First, listen to it. There is this argument that some of the money from IPOD goes to the leader of opposition, and you were taking over the leader of opposition as FDC, meaning you were getting some of this money. Now, with Noop taking center stage, and they are actually likely to take over leader of opposition, you're not actually going to be getting any money from IPOD.
That's where I was going. So in 2019 was Noop here. Why didn't we attend? If that was your argument, Mr. Dombo. If we are just looking for relevancy because we are not the leaders in parliament, then what happened in 2019? Why do you forget just what happened 5 years ago? You know, we know you as somebody who doesn't forget very easily. So I don't think that is relevant really. It makes any sense for you to parade that you see because Noop is coming on board. It is the reason why FDC is looking for cameras. Oh no. Then why didn't we attend in 2019?
But who benefits with the FDC deciding to stay away?
You
Francis
see,
Mwijukye?
let me tell you. When Noop says we are no longer interested in this case we are putting out, the pressure that comes from government that you see this case must remain should tell you as a right-thinking Ugandan. When we say we are not attending, the way people, the Dombos will move around the country abusing us for saying we are not attending a meeting, should tell you that we are making them miss an opportunity to be part of a photo moment, to be part of a group of Ugandans that should endorse them. To say, you see, you Europeans may not be interested in us, may think we are going a right direction, but Ugandans here at home are with us.
Emmanuel Dombo, do you think the reasons he fronts or advances are justified for staying away?
You know, maybe before he comes in, he talked about generals, and you know, he said you've been fronting.
If you're
Dr.
retired, you
Besigye.
can go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, you've been fronting Dr. Besigye. So you're talking about transiting from generals to civilians. In FDC, you have already done that.
Patrick Amuriat.
Amuriat is not a general. You should know him better. You are with him in parliament. He's from your region. I'm sure you know he's not a really trained general. So if FDC has only trained fronted generals, well, I don't know whether you're being honest with the viewers or with yourself.
Mr. Dombo, when we did talk to Patrick Amuriat, he said the reason they did not actually attend the 2019 summit was because of the continued arrest and detention of their political leaders like Kizza Besigye, and also the issue of disrupting party activities, because they were saying if we cannot reach the local leaders of the FDC at the bottom, then whose interests are we fronting at the IPOD summit as it is, if we are not being allowed to actually organize these small meetings with our local leaders? So do you think the reasons that they front for staying away from this summit are actually justified?
How would it be justified when it is a forum which was constituted by their presence, and is a forum from which they benefit, and it's a forum which has taken decisions which has enabled them to even be here, because it has enhanced the budgets of political parties, and then how can they say that the IPOD is useless? IPOD operates at different levels. It has the level of the summit, it has the level of the council, and has the level of the secretariat, where decisions are cooked and the administration is done. Then it has also the level of the funders. But one of the things that has affected our political development in the country is the intransigence and lack of goodwill for people to have a discussion about issues that concern us. Because every time there is an opportunity to talk about issues, why don't you talk about them and raise them in the forum which has come? I've told you that FDC will never boycott areas where there is money. There is money in parliament. Even when they will tell you that the elections are unfair, the electoral commission is not good, they will go and subject themselves to the same electoral commission. And they go to parliament and earn money. That's what I was telling you, because I know, I've been there. They have been in parliament boycotting sessions, but they have never boycotted payment. They have been in parliament, they will never boycott a trip, to fly on a trip and go outside. Because there is allowance, there is this, they will always want to be there. Even under IPOD, they have been part of the delegation to go to South Africa to go and understand it. They will always do that. And when IPOD summit sits and they negotiate the budget and is enhanced, they will be the first people to run to say, give us our share. So, if IPOD has been making these progressive achievements, why is it that you don't join them so that you make the achievements together? So other than you wanting to stay behind, and then you partake of what the other smaller parties have been negotiating with the others, then you want to say that you are boycotting, when actually you are not, and you are a silent beneficiary of what has been discussed. So, this is not helpful, because in a dialogue, you don't set an agenda before you get into a dialogue. You can even amend, you have been on the order, he's a member of parliament. The order paper is circulated before. But even when the audience, when the parliament is seated, you can move a motion or seek the indulgence of the speaker to amend the order paper so that the things you want discussed are discussed. Or if you are part of the meeting, you can raise the issues, and if they are ignored, then everybody will know that these issues have been ignored, and ignored in bad faith, other than wanting to parade yourself before the cameras when you are part of the council meeting which made the decisions, and then you want to exclude yourselves. This becomes and smacks of some bit of dishonesty. This I'll repeat, Mr. Buziku.
Go ahead, Emmanuel.
You know that there is no transition in Uganda. The only transition that we have is that we are getting from the 10th parliament, this 10th parliament, we are going to the 10th parliament. We are transiting from the current administration of NRM into the new administration. And President Museveni's victory does not require legitimization by anybody. The only thing it required was the announcement by the Electoral Commission and our electoral laws. So the issues that are being imputed, that the Americans have refused, the Europeans have refused, really, you are the custodian of the Constitution, Honorable Mwijukye, and you swore in Parliament to uphold and defend the Constitution. Did it say so? That during our elections they must be endorsed by so and so? It's good to relate with people as long as they understand what exactly is happening and what is at stake.
Mr. Dombo.
Even for previous IPOD meetings, there was no resolution in those meetings that the presidential candidates will not commit crimes. If they did, I don't know. But if there are regulations and then the presidential candidate commits a crime, that's not the responsibility of IPOD, it's the responsibility of the state and the police. And if the police mishandles presidential candidates, at one time I was on these media houses condemning the way the police has been handling the political people, even when the way to handle the cameras.
Yeah, I remember even the NRM investigate.
So we come up to condemn the bad things that are done, all the excesses. And you can only talk about them and then they can be addressed. But when you share away, or when you come and openly torpedo the law as a presidential candidate, did you expect the IPOD to convene a council meeting and say presidential candidates were not supposed to be doing this? Because there are things that we must accept to be doing, and we know that for actions that we do, there are consequences. And the consequences of breach of the law may either be result into being arrested, arraigned before the courts. But for me, as a member of a political party, I will say, let the law take its course. If somebody has been arrested, let him have access to his lawyers. Let him be arraigned before the courts, before the expiry of the constitutionally provided time. 3, let him have access to medicine or medical treatment if he's mishandled. When my friend Amriat was arrested, I looked him up and I rang him and I said, Honorable Amriat, I do empathize with you because he's a friend. I was with him in Parliament and I had to go and do some work in Teso to ensure that even when Amriat was because he's a son of Teso, and there were some people who would have gotten jittery that their son was being harassed and they could have refused to vote for NRM. So I had to take off very fast to go and make sure that we do a good campaign in those areas to ensure that the excesses of the police does not undermine does not undermine our victory.
Let's talk about the biggest contestation, Mr. Dombo. The biggest contestation coming in from the political parties like the FDC. They are saying the reason why they've decided to stay away is because many of the resolutions that were decided on were never implemented. Electoral reforms and so forth.
I think the electoral reforms are supposed to be done in Parliament because that's where they sit. And they have never boycotted that Parliament. And two, right now I know, FDC has never sponsored any private member's bill. Because why, once they say electoral reforms must come, and government has not done its part, does it prevent a member of the FDC, or a private member for that matter from FDC, from coming up with the propositions of reforms that they want Parliament done? Because there is a provision for the private member's bill. Right now, Honorable Nwagaba's bill is under consideration before Parliament. And in that bill, there are electoral reforms that have been considered. And they are being discussed. So, if they boycotted because the electoral reforms were not, what happened to them? Why didn't they bring those reforms before Parliament, where they have been as the leader of the opposition?
Francis Mwijukye, yes, react to his submission and also tell us whether or not mere talks can actually resolve the tensions we are seeing among political parties.
The highest challenge you have had as a country, the highest undoing you have had as a country is intellectual dishonesty.
Explain.
That you have people who see things, know what is happening, but they speak like they don't live here. You know, it is so hurting when you hear my colleague, my friend, Honorable Dombo speak, the Dombo of now, and maybe a Dombo about 10 years ago. You think something wrong has happened to him, but it is just because he must defend something, because it is his job anyway. It is hurting. He's now reducing IPOD into money. That people go to IPOD for money. No. And the difference between me and him is that I know the purpose. He doesn't know. He's just looking at now. I am talking about why this thing, what was the purpose? Was it that we should get money from it? Was it that we should just meet and have tea? Was it, why did we have to initiate this process? IPOD was for what? Now, if that has failed, please, it has failed. We can't continue meeting for purposes of meeting. So those who met in 2019, what have we achieved? Says, even if we don't achieve anything, please let's continue meeting. No, we can't do that. But two, Honorable Nwagaba,
Ndora East.
Do you know how long it has taken him to reach where he has reached? You know the process is in Parliament. Do you know why government could not give him a certificate?
And there is a 7-year clause that was smuggled into his bill. He's also contested.
He had to wait. Leave alone the smuggling, of course, that's why they're using
5 years to 7 years.
Leave alone the smuggling.
Yeah.
He had to wait to automatically get a certificate after 60 days because government was not willing. And he's now here speaking as if government is willing, they have the will. He said, why don't you sponsor bills and so what? He knows that you need a certificate of financial implications. So
did you try and you failed?
Yes. You know that this was a bill we were supposed to discuss last year. So actually 2-3 years ago.
So did you bring one as FDC and you failed?
Are you forgetting that Nwagaba is acting on behalf of the opposition?
I don't know. He's not a member of the opposition.
Do you know that he's our minister in the opposition? So he's working for us.
Go ahead, Mwijukye. Exhaust your point.
You see, that's why I'm talking about the former Dombo. He knows the operations of Parliament. He knows that this is our minister in Parliament. He's working for opposition. But because he has to get a pay, he will come and say, but is he FDC? So, and really I didn't want to take that line, but sometimes it is...
Can mere talks resolve the tension we are seeing among political parties in Uganda, Francis?
Don't we all know the history of peace talks and this government, right away from Nairobi? Don't we know that this government doesn't believe in peace talks? Do you really even need a lecture about that? They will just call you, you sit, and you resolve, and once the pressures have gone down of these elections have gone down.
President Museveni has come out so many times to say he's willing to talk. 2018, 2019.
And
was castigating people like the FDC who do not want to talk.
And the following day he will say, no one will lecture me about politics. The following day. We have these partner states. They are coming to say, we have shared values. We should discuss good governance. We should discuss human rights. And he says, no one will lecture me. So what are you saying? If you say no one should lecture you, no one should tell you about democracy. No one should tell you about politics. So are you coming to just lecture to us? So people should come, sit in a meeting, listen to him, and go. Don't raise anything. Otherwise, because he's the Sabarwani, he's the Saba democracy, he's the supreme leader now, who everybody must come here and kneel down. You know? So that is why really some of us who are young would be looking up to certain people in this country. But the trend that would be leaders, the trend they are taking, the way they discuss issues, then you really want to lose hope in that and say, no, we need a different, we need to look at things differently. Because people have now given up.
So what is about we would like to know, Mwijukye, what is the way forward for the FDC if you're not looking at dialogue as a resolution that could bring back this country to the path of democracy?
You know, formerly I asked you, I said, if we are shying away, why don't you ignore us? Why would the Dombo say, okay, they can shy away, for us we are proceeding?
They would ignore the FDC if you do not attend the council meeting.
Why is it an issue that everybody wants to discuss why FDC is not coming on board?
The argument is, if you're attending council meetings, why are you not attending the summits? That's why they keep on calling on to the FDC.
But you see, that is okay. That should be yielding into a summit meeting. And a summit meeting that is useful. But if that is yielding into a useless summit meeting, into a summit meeting of just come for tea, which some people will happily go for, a summit meeting that will come up with resolutions and recommendations that will never be implemented. Really, how many years do we need to go through for some people to understand that this is just a waste of time? So,
how many resolutions has Parliament passed and they have not been implemented, and you didn't boycott going to Parliament?
You see, he's looking at boycotts. That's what he's looking at, because he's forcing me to say now, okay, even Parliament will wait for you, so they can go and sell this country right, left, and center. When he was commissioner in Parliament, I am a parliamentary commissioner, he was a parliamentary commissioner. I used to come and visit Parliament. He was a different Dombo.
Let's stick to discussing IPOD.
No, I'm saying he knows what was happening in Parliament. Nothing, this Parliament has not changed. It is the same Parliament of Uganda.
So the viewer who is watching...
The problem is not Parliament.
Yeah.
The problem is not the resolutions of Parliament. The problem is those who implement the resolution.
So, Mwijukye, the FDC voter is watching and is asking himself or herself, okay, fine, the ushered comings with IPOD. Okay, is pulling away from the summits the only solution to resolving what is happening with the machinations within IPOD?
See, today we are in eastern Uganda. As FDC, activities are going on. Party building is going on. We are meeting our structures, we are meeting our leaders, we are planning for the future. That is better than just sitting for a meeting to discuss what you know that nobody will implement. So, and why I was bringing in Parliament, which he brought in, and I didn't want to just run off from it, is that he actually rightly said, you have made many resolutions. Have they been implemented? Most of them, no. The people who have not implemented them are the same people who will not implement the resolution of
All right, Mr. Mwijukye, he is the MP for Mwijukye. Let me also bring in Emmanuel Dombo, the Director of Communications at the NRM. There is an inherent distrust for the NRM at these meetings, just like he has pointed out. What should be done to change this?
There is inherent distrust from the FDC. But there is trust of the people of Uganda because NRM has just been re-elected. And the other parties are going to participate in the discussions and directions. And even Mwijukye himself has just participated in the elections, which were organized and supervised under the government of NRM. So he also believes and he knows the capabilities and he's enjoying the peace that has been happening. But he talked about intellectual dishonesty. I want to tell you and the viewers to know that the Dombo is talking about 10 years ago, I was not in FDC. I was Dombo in NRM. Even when I talk the things that you admired, I was talking them in NRM. I wasn't talking them in FDC. And secondly, when you look at the prayers of the summit, I saw in the prayers of the summit when the Secretary General, Right Honorable Justin Kaswell Lumumba, was praying. One of the things that was being prayed for is something that every person has been yearning for in the country. When you go to the Council of Elders, when you go to the Interreligious Council, when you go to Honorable Mukitara and team, and recently Honorable Mukitara came to interact with NRM to say that I wanted to discuss with you because I'm going to seek the leave of Parliament to see that we can move national dialogue ahead. And the Right Honorable Secretary General okayed it. He said you can go ahead. The first prayer of the council is that a multi-sectoral stakeholders meeting should be convened in the country so that we begin talking about the issues that affect us. If the council could adopt that and is implemented, to me, it would be something that would be very progressive. When we talked about the parks and the money, you know that the previous council talked and discussed and approved the enhancement of the budget of the IPOD, and was done. And why I talked about it is because amongst the beneficiaries was NRM. We were able to pay for our candidates when they were competing. You were able to pay for the candidates of FDC when they were competing because the budget was enhanced, and this came out of the resolutions of the council, of the summit. The council and the summit. So many things have been done together. Even last time when they were moving the electoral amendments, about 10 years ago in the parliament, they were being discussed and brought together under the framework of IPOD. This is something that must be encouraged. Even when it fails in the first time and it doesn't take off the way you should have wanted it, is the option running away? Does it provide the solution to the problems that we have in Uganda? So the challenges that we have, we must all acknowledge, can only be resolved through discussion and talking.
What do you expect to be the final outcome of this summit?
The summit is to uphold, because I'm not a member of the summit. I don't want even to speculate what they will be talking. But when I look at the resolution, I mean the prayers by the council, they wanted the multi-sectoral stakeholders conference or meeting to begin discussing the matters, the issues of Uganda. This is something that has been recommended at different forums, even where Honorable Mwijukye has been. So, if the summit can adopt that and is implemented, it will go a long way in creating an opportunity for people to come and pray. So, this is something that I have, I think that if the summit sits, they will consider what has been happening, they will consider the electoral cycles, they will consider the manner in which these elections have been conducted, and what could be done going forward and improving on the process,
Indeed,
given the examples that have happened in the past.
And finally, Honorable Mwijukye, we also do know that the objectives of the Inter-Party Organization for Dialogue is to uphold divergent views. But it seems you seem to disagree as FDC, and now you're pulling out. Don't you think that...
You see, if you called me here and said we'll discuss human rights, and I come and you introduced something else, I would say that's not what has brought me.
So we should be able to embrace divergent views, Mr. Mwijukye.
If you said what we have discussed will be put into, these recommendations should be implemented.
It seems like by FDC pulling out, you're violating the IPOD.
And nothing is happening. And we are not bothered as IPOD to say, but aren't we wasting time? Why should we call people to sit for something we know will not be implemented? That can only be defended by a director of communication at the NRM. Because anyway, why do you expect a director of communication at the NRM to come and do? To say the president is wrong? To say that the government is taking it? Because he is paid to say government is doing very, very well. And therefore, it would be really...
IPOD is not government.
No, you see, defend why they are not implementing. So, really, I would be unfair to him to think that he would speak differently. But you would also be unfair to me to think that I would speak like him. Because at the end of the day, we have come here for different purposes. And that's why you look at his file. When he came, I said, now, this yellow file, it has core principles of the NRM.
All right, gentlemen. All right, gentlemen.
Now,
we've come to the end of this show. But okay, I'll give you some more time. Go ahead, Mwijukye.
So,
the studio director will give us more time.
So he said, I said, but this democracy, he said, now it is, we should build it. I said, it should be removed from the core principles. Because at the end of the day, what we see happening is not democracy. So if we are going for a summit to discuss kidnaps, to discuss arrests of candidates, yet we had promised in the other summit that we would have a peaceful election, non-violence in these elections, then I would say, yes, let's go and discuss why was my president arrested. Why do we have to go for an election, and ever after an election, a presidential candidate is arrested from his house? You cannot leave your home. If you have 15 days to go and petition court, you'll be kept for 10, released to go and deal with what you are supposed to deal with in only 5 days. If we are coming to discuss that, the current. But as of now, we are being invited to go and discuss Public Order Management Act.
Wouldn't you be in a better position as FDC to go for this summit and front these arguments that you're fronting on Morning at NTV?
You see, summits are not like this. Even now, even if I came and said, now, you see, what is current today is this. You'll not change your topic. But now, if NTV...
But that's because you already have a negative attitude that it won't change.
If NTV cannot change its topic, that Dombo can influence it or friends can influence it, why do you think that Mwijukye will go to a summit and influence what has been saturated? A summit is not just any other meeting.
But it's better than just walking away, Mr. Mwijukye.
Well, walking away is also a statement. And if we had right-thinking people looking at democracy as very important, they would say we cannot continue with something. Because for a summit, everybody should be there, by the way. The quorum is everybody. All political party leaders involved should be there. So without them, you have no quorum. And so I wouldn't expect them to proceed. I would expect them to first say, no, we cannot proceed without FDC. We need to first bring FDC on board.
But last time they did.
Because they are not looking at, we are talking about what we stand for.
Mr. Mwijukye, if IPOD is not working, what should be done to resolve the conflicts that we are seeing, the inter-party conflicts, the intra-party politics?
First of all, FDC, I should say, is open to dialogue. But dialogue that is systematic, dialogue that has an agenda, dialogue that has a known chair, a dialogue that you know that once these are the resolutions, this is how they will be implemented. You don't just say, let's just talk. Who is going to be the chair? Are you going to talk in a meeting, talk about Mr. Museveni when he's the chair of the meeting? Is that going to be the dialogue you're talking about? Are you going to go for a meeting where you're going to talk about what Mwijukye has done wrong and Mwijukye is the chair of the meeting? No. We're talking about have a structured dialogue.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Mwijukye Francis. Also, Emmanuel Dombo, I have 1 minute for you. If this summit fails tomorrow, what would be the future of multi-party politics within this country?
That will be speculation, and I don't want being involved in speculative discussion because there is a summit which has been convened. I'm not a member of the summit. Let us wait for the stakeholders in the summit, what they will be resolving. What is interesting is that even when FDC has not attended the summit and the resolutions are made, they pick interest in them. That is
just like we pick interest in our not participating.
So let us go ahead and make resolutions. FDC will participate from the rear. They will be reading and coming to discuss the resolutions the way we have done. But I want to tell them that the best way resolving the issues of Uganda is through political discussion and through political dialogue. And this is what exactly IPOD presents for the people of Uganda.
Very insightful and engaging conversation with Emmanuel Dombo. He is the Director of Communications at the NRM Secretariat. I also did have Honorable Francis Mwijukye. He is the MP for Buheji. Gentlemen, very good morning and thank you for coming.
He's the Director of Propaganda.
Well, you had to throw that in. Well, you're still watching Morning at NTV. I do have Stephen Osimwe, who is next in line to talk about DRC joining the EAC. We'll be right back.